guys, it's Carrie with Mama Dares to DIY, and I'm really excited y'all tuned in for today's video. Even though I sound like crap and it sounds like my head is all stopped up and congested, it is. But no worries, I am pushing through. The show must go on, and I am really excited to share today's video with you. Do you see this little cutie pie right here? Y'all, I'm going to show you how to make your very own 3-dimensional truck that you can change out for every holiday, every season, using nothing but Dollar Tree items. You're not going to believe how easy this is. I'm actually going to give you 2 options for making this, and in a later video, stay tuned, I'm going to give you the camper that matches it. So you're going to want to turn on all your notifications. If you don't already have those turned on, you're going to miss out. So hit that notification bell, ring it, turn on all your notifications. So when that camper video goes live, you're going to know it the minute that it does. So keep watching. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up because that would mean the world to me. And don't forget to check out my blog, mamadaresToDIY.com, where you're going to find templates to make this, as well as lots of other fun DIYs that you're not going to want to miss. So y'all, this is a collaboration video, which means that I've teamed up with a fabulous group of YouTubers, and we are all going to bring you fabulous Easter DIYs. So I'll link the playlist down below, and when you visit their channels, be sure to tell them Mama Dares to DIY sent you so they'll know where you came from. Anyway, keep watching, y'all, because this video is going to blow your mind at how easy it is to make. Okay, y'all, so the first thing that we're going to need to get started with this project is 2 of these wooden cutouts that Dollar Tree had around Christmas time. Now, I know you're probably sitting there going, girl, it is almost Valentine's Day. You know darn well Dollar Tree does not have these trucks still out. But no worries, because I'm going to give y'all a template. That's right. If you go to my blog, which I'll put a link down below, you can actually download these templates and you can make your own using foam core. So all you're going to do is to print this off, and this is you can print this off to be whatever size you want it to be. But this one is roughly, let's see how much it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is roughly 8 by 14. So if you just print this off on a legal size piece of paper, you should be good. So what you're going to do after you get your template printed off, you're going to grab a piece of foam core, and you can buy the foam core from Dollar Tree, or you can get the little bit thicker kind that they have at the craft stores. It's totally up to you as to how thick you want your project to be. So after you get the outside traced, you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut out your fender wells and the top part of your truck. And then you're going to trace those out onto some poster board. Now again, you can get this poster board at Dollar Tree, or you can pick it up at any of the craft stores. It's completely up to you. So you're basically going to have everything that I have here because we're not actually using the tree. So again, if you visit the link that I have down below to my blog, you can download your copies for free. You're welcome. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do is to pull off this tree. Now, for your second one, if you are using these trucks, you will need to remove the fenders of both of these, as well as the little top part of your cab here. And you can do that just by taking a knife or a paint scraper and just sliding it under those fenders, and be really careful when you do that because you don't want to break it. But if you do happen to break it, no worries. I actually broke one of mine. You can just glue it back together, and we're going to sand this down. So you won't even be able to tell that that's been broken. But just know that they're not too fragile, but you may end up leaving some on your side piece here. The fenders popped off quite well, actually. They weren't hardly glued on well at all. Okay, so we've got our truck pieces ready. Now, I do plan on using the back of my truck to change out for all of the seasons. So I picked up this cute little basket from Dollar Tree. And y'all, wait until you see what we're going to do with this. This little dude here going to go in the back of this truck, and I'm going to decorate this for every holiday that you can imagine. So we're going to just set this to the side for now. Now, if you're super OCD, you can take your sandpaper and you can sand this off. But this is actually going to be on the inside. So I'm just going to flip it over. And on the back side of this one, I am going to sand this off because this will show. Okay, so I finally got all of that nasty glue off. And I actually had to end up scraping it off with my knife. Don't tell my hubby I used the good knife from the kitchen. Okay, so let's recap on what we've got so far. So we've got one of our trucks that we've done absolutely nothing to, but I am going to sand this off. And then we've got another truck that we've taken all of the pieces off and flipped it over, and this is what we're going to use for the back side. Now we're going to be gluing these on to the back side here because we want this to be a mirror image of itself. So it looks like I am going to need to do a little sanding on this part too, which is no big deal. Or I really could just leave it off. I don't think you need it, to be honest. And that's probably what I'm going to do. Okay, so now while we've got our sandpaper out, I will go ahead and scrape some of this glitter off. And then use my sandpaper to take the rest of this glitter. Okay, now let's fill it. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so let's pause for a minute and let's get all this mess cleaned up and we'll be back. Okay, now the great thing if you're using the templates that I'm providing for you is you're not going to have any of the glitter to sand off, and it's going to be so much quicker than it is if you use these. So there's the advantage to using that. So now we're just going to go ahead and glue our pieces on. And again, I'm using my cordless glue gun from Sure Bonder because I don't like fooling with those pesky cords. Okay, so now that we've got all of our pieces ready to go, it's time to glue on our little bed for our truck. Now, I do want my truck, I do want the little wood pieces to kind of stick up a little bit. So I'm going to have it sticking up about right there. So I'm only going to need to put glue on this bottom piece. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is to cut our support pieces to go inside our truck. Now, like I said, you can use your truck just like this, and it would be perfectly okay if all you're going to see is the sides. But I've got to take it up a notch, and I'm actually going to make all of this covered. I'm going to paint it up to look super duper cute. Now, to make our support pieces, we want to make sure that we've got our pieces to go in the center. So my pieces are going to be exactly the same diameter or the same width as our little basket piece here. So I'm just going to mark that with my pencil and then take my utility knife, and I'm going to cut roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to cut roughly 10 of the 9 or 10 of these, and that's what I'm going to use to brace my truck. Okay, so I've got 9 of my little cross pieces cut, and now we're just going to attach those. I'll just put a little bit of hot glue on each end. I'm just going to put 1 in the center. I planned on doing 2, but I think 1 will be plenty. Just want to put it in the middle and hold it in place. Now this is really going to help to stabilize this piece and give you one that's going to last for a really, really long time. Now I'm also going to take a piece and put under the bottom here, just so that it sort of camouflages the fact that this is not, that doesn't go all the way to the back. So I'll just put a little bit of glue on this one and put that right under there. Okay, so now that all my cross pieces are in, I'm just going to take my glue gun and sort of reinforce those a little bit, just so that they don't go anywhere. Now this is where a cordless glue gun would come in handy. You know what, and actually I just noticed that there's going to be a little hole right here from where I stopped. So I'm going to cut one more piece. Okay, so there's one last thing that we need to do before we start gluing on our cardboard or our poster board, and that is going to be to put some dowels on. Now, I did try a couple of different ways to make this kind of work and not be wrinkled, where it kind of smooths over right here. And honestly, the easiest thing to do was just to glue 2 dowels here at the top, so that your pieces are going to just kind of roll over. So I took a bigger dowel from a assorted dowel package that I picked up from Walmart, I believe it was. And I put a bigger dowel and then a smaller dowel so that it sits right over the edge. And I filled that in with hot glue. Now, I will be honest, if I were doing this out of the template that I gave you, I would just cut this off flat. So instead of trying to make that roll over, I would just square that up and get rid of that, because it's going to save you a lot of trouble. Trust me on that. I may have to go back in and do the same thing to this edge right here on the front, but I'll know more once I start covering it, and we'll just kind of wing it and see how it goes. Okay, so now we want to take our poster board, and I did cut the poster board on the long side, and we're going to want the shiny side up. So this is actually going to be wider than I need it to be, and we're just going to trim off the excess on one side. But let's go ahead and just start gluing it. So I'm going to start at the back of the truck here. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the edge of both sides. And I cut my poster board roughly 4 inches wide, and that was just so that I would have plenty of room to play around with. That way I don't have to worry about it being perfect on both sides. I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and kind of go down the edges once I'm done. Okay, so now let's pull that over. I think this is going to work out much better having this rolled. But like I said, if you're using the template that I gave you, just do yourself a favor and cut that off, and you won't have to worry about putting your dowels on the top here. So now you can take your X-Acto knife or your box cutter, either one. And just find where your edge is. And then you can see, oops, you can see the edge. I did leave a little bit longer, and I'll just tuck that under and put a little glue on the edge. But you want to kind of roll it over first before you glue it. That'll help it to stay without creasing too bad. And you can take your leftover piece of paint stir and just sort of burnish that in to kind of smooth it out a little bit. And while I'm at this point, I am going to take my X-Acto knife and just trim off that edge. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like under there. Can you see that? That edge is just nice and clean. Okay, so next we're going to start our next piece of poster board right here. So it's just going to start there. We're going to work it down just like we did our other piece. Now, again, I'm going to take my poster board before I glue it and just sort of score it. That'll just make sure that your creases are where they're supposed to be. And again, we're going to go back and trim both sides once we're done. And again, this edge right here is going to be really tricky. So if you're using this one, I would totally just box this off and box that off just to make yourself not go crazy trying to get it to roll over that edge. But I think we can do it. Okay, as you can see, my paper was wrinkling up on the end here. So I went ahead and did just like I did right here on this part and put another dowel here and just filled up the edge where the dowel met my, my support here. But if you're doing this with that template, trust me, just cut it straight. Now, I am going to Mod Podge over my, my poster board here. So once I Mod Podge over that a couple of times, then I will take my sandpaper and smooth over this, just so that I smooth all those wrinkles out, because I don't want those to show. Okay. Now, once we get to this second edge, we're going to do just like we did before and cut it off. Right here. Okay, so now let's trim off the excess. And I'm honestly not even going to chance it. I'm going to go ahead and stick another dowel in this little rounded part here, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so I've got my last dowel cut, and I'm just going to glue that in to that space. Ooh, y'all, this cold is really kicking my butt. All right, so now we are ready to do our last piece. Okay, so now that we've got our dowel on and our glue has cooled, we're going to go ahead and glue our next piece on. I'm going to go real slow. Remember, shiny side up. We're just going to hold this on until it cools. Okay, and we're just going to keep on gluing until we get to the edge of our fender here. Just to the edge of this fender. We're not going to cover the tires. Okay, so I did decide to go ahead and finish off the edge right here underneath this second little roll here and not go over the fenders because it was kind of finishing weird. And I don't really hate the way that that looks. I think it's fine. So the very last thing I'm going to do here to kind of finish off this seam is just to fill this up with hot glue. I don't want anything showing through. So I'll just take that and then just take one of my dowels and sort of smooth it off. More than likely it's not going to show and you're not going to notice it, but I don't really want to take any chances. And once all this is painted, you aren't even going to notice any of that. Like, it looks kind of rough right now, but I promise you, you won't even notice when it's all painted. All right, so this is what the back looks like. This is our paint stirrer. We've got the sides and then the front. Super cute. Okay, so the next step for our project is going to be to Mod Podge over the poster board. I want the poster board to be kind of waterproof and not, you know, I want it to be more durable. So I'm going to give this maybe 2 or 3 coats of Mod Podge and be sure to let those dry in between each one. That way you're going to get a nice, even coat. Okay, so I have gone ahead and put 3 coats of Mod Podge on my poster board here. And I let that dry really good in between the coats. And then I just took some 320 grit sandpaper and just smoothed down those edges on the front here, just so that you won't, you know, so it doesn't look wrinkled like that. Now, once we get this all primed and painted, it's gonna look so good. So don't let this stage make you think, oh my God, it's gonna look horrible, because it's not. I promise you, it's gonna be just adorable. So the next step is going to be priming the whole thing. I'm going to give both sides a good coat of primer, but I'm going to leave this the natural wood. I really am digging the way that this looks with the natural. And then I'm going to go back and add in a few little details just to sort of extend that bed. And these are just little craft sticks that I cut down to size. But I think that'll just kind of extend that bed a little bit to make it look more seamless. And then I'm going to put these little details on too. So cute. Okay, but like I said, the next step is just going to be to prime everything. Okay, y'all, so my truck is primed and ready to paint. And you can see from in the inside, I did not paint the whole thing. I just kind of painted on the other sides of the wheels, just in case that happened to show. But nobody's going to see what's in here, so I didn't really take the time to worry about doing that. So I'm just going to paint my whole truck turquoise. Y'all know I live at the beach, so of course I have to have a pretty turquoise truck. So I decided to go with an appropriately named color called Ocean Breeze, and this is a Craft Mark paint. So just shake it up really good. And I'm just going to put some on my plate here and start painting. Now, I'm going to paint the whole truck except for the wheels, this pretty turquoise. Okay, so I've got 2 coats of my turquoise on my truck, and I've taken my pencil and I've just sort of outlined where I'm going to put the tires and the rims and also the door. Now, I did go ahead and do a little grill on the front here, and I'll just paint that up. But I've decided that I want my windows to be just a little bit bigger. These little tiny windows here, to me, just look kind of weird and out of place. So my solution is going to be to just take a little piece of cardboard here, and I'm going to hot glue that inside. And when I paint it, I'm going to paint the overdrawn part. You know how some people overdraw their lips? Well, we're going to overdraw our window here, just to give that illusion that the window is bigger than what it actually is. So let me cut my glue gun on here and wait for that to heat up. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some shading. So I'm going to add in some highlights and some lowlights. I'm not going to paint everything like super solid. Like I kind of want it to have like a sort of like a cartoon effect. So I'm going to put some of my Ocean Breeze paint on my plate here. And then I'm going to take a kind of a more bluish color here. And this is called Tropical Rain. And then I'm going to take one called Minted Aqua. And I'm just going to pour a little bit on that too. So these are just going to be my highlights and my lowlights. And I'm going to use those to blend together. Now, this little piece right here, I do think I'm going to paint that white just to pull in some white because I do have the matching camper that I'm going to be showing you in a different video. Okay, so I want a little bit of a shadow here, so I'm just going to lay down some of my color, my aqua color. And I'm also going to take some gray. Now this is the color Elephant in the Waverly chalk paint. I'm just going to use just a little bit of that. I don't need a whole lot, but I do want to just sort of hit those shadows with some of this. So I've got my gray, and I'm going to take some of my turquoise, and I'm just going to sort of blend those two together. And while I've got my gray on my brush, I'm just going to hit that edge too, just a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of my gray, my turquoise, and just mix those together to try to get a darker turquoise. And I want to sort of go in the shadows here. Thing about it, even if you think you're not a painter, like don't be afraid to just go for it. Like it's paint. If you don't like the way it looks, then just paint over it. That's the beauty of paint. Because I'm definitely not a professional painter. I just sort of do whatever I like and hope it turns out. But you do want to think about your shadows and like what's going to be a darker part, and just, you know, in your head, just try to plan out where those shadows should be. I'm going to grab a clean brush now. and just sort of feather these colors in. I'm going back in with my original color, my turquoise, and I just want to feather in my shadows in with the other. Because once I get the shadows, I'm going to go back in and do my highlights. Okay, now that I've got my shadows in, I'm going to take some of my lighter blue and also my mint green and just sort of go and put on just a little bit of highlight. If you get too much highlight, don't be afraid to just take your brush that's got your original color in it and just sort of blend those in together. And the great thing about your highlights and your lowlights is you can use those to mark your lines without actually making a line. All right, I think I like it. Now, before I move on to the other side, I am going to go ahead. Maybe my glue gun is warm now. I'm going to go ahead and glue my piece into this side. Just like this. And I'll paint this black, and then I'll work on my tires next. All right, now I'm going to jump back in and use my white. And then the last little piece is going to be finishing it off with a little bit of outline. All right, she's looking cute. All right, I'm going to need to do my wheels, my rims next on the inside. And this is the Waverly chalk paint in silver lining. And then I'll finish it off with the white. I think before I do the black outlines, I'm going to go in and add just a few highlights with some white around the edge. Not much. And I'll just use my finger to sort of spread those in. I just like to add depth into my paintings. I just think it makes a big difference. Just sort of makes everything come to life. And again, I am not a professional by any stretch of the imagination. I just sort of do what I like and hope it looks good. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so the very last thing that I need to do, I'm going to take this angled brush and I'm going to take black paint. Now, you're probably going to look at this and sort of freak out. But you know how a coloring book looks and everything is sort of like a little bit outlined? Well, that's kind of the way I want this to look. So I just want to very lightly take the edge of my brush and just sort of outline. I don't want it to go all the way around. I just want to sort of give it that pop art look. I think that's what you call it. It's just another layer of dimension that you're going to add, but it really does make a huge difference. And when you do this, you want to use a super light touch and turn your paintbrush on its side. That's why I find that these angled brushes work really well. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Okay, now while I've still got black paint on my brush, I want to get a lot of that paint off because I just want to outline just the silhouette of the door handle here. Oops, I may have gotten too much off. My bad. And now I also want to use the tip of my pointed brush and just ever so lightly sort of give the illusion that this is being outlined too. Like I said, I don't want a super stark line. I'm just not a big fan of that, but I do sort of like a messy pop art look. I'm also going to line just a little bit under that edge. Maybe a little bit like that. Oh my gosh, y'all, I can't wait to paint the other side the exact same way. What do you think? Too stinking cute. Okay, now while I've got my glue gun plugged up, I am going to go ahead and put on this last detail. Now, I took some craft sticks and I cut those to size to fit right in here because my basket wasn't quite as long as I wanted it to be. I really wanted it to be a little bit longer. So I'm just going to give it the illusion that it's longer by gluing these craft sticks on right here. So I've got two that I'm going to glue on just like this. And then I've got some little cross pieces that are going to go over. And I actually just noticed I forgot to put my white in my window there. I want a little bit of a shadow in there. Okay. What do you think? Is that not the most precious thing you've ever seen in your entire life? So I'm just going to paint the grill on the front, and I've got to go in and paint the windshield, and then I'm going to paint this side exactly the way that I did this one, and then I will come back and show you the finished project when we're done. Okay, y'all, here's our truck all decorated for Easter. Is this not the most adorable thing you've ever seen in your life? Now, I used one of the paintable ornaments that Dollar Tree has out right now, and I just removed the hook and used Sharpies to color in his features. Now, I also used some of the raffia carrots that are out in the stores, as well as some of the styrofoam and some of the plastic eggs. Check out this. This cute little sign was actually made using some chalk couture that Subu Design sent me. If you want to check out Subu Designs and Chalk Couture, I'll be sure to link her link down below in the description box, so be sure to check her out and tell her Mama Dares the DIY sent you. For the little banner, I just took some jute cord and some ribbon and tied that all together. So this entire project cost me less than $5 to make, but y'all, doesn't it look like $1,000,000? That does it for today's video, y'all. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a big thumbs up because that would mean the world to me. And until next time, happy DIYing, y'all.